Good morning, everybody. It's the Money Talk Show with Dan, where we talk about topics relating to money, specifically crypto and real estate here. So, if those are topics that are interesting to you, you're in the right place at the right time. We're pumped to have you on this morning. This is the new time that we're moving our show to. And so, make sure that you're tuning in at about 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time to catch our shows moving forward. We are doing our absolute best to be the bridge between real estate investors, other entrepreneurs, and crypto to help people understand what we feel like is the biggest opportunity potentially of our lives leading into the next bull run over the next couple of years. So we couldn't be more excited to be here sharing our best information that we're finding to help you make the best decisions for yourself. So welcome, Corey. Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, Crypto Millionaires with Corey Geary here. Just super excited to be on this journey with all you guys. This journey to true legacy, I well believe, with this opportune time that we are in right now, with this market cycle and Pulsechain about to launch. And man, I couldn't be more excited. And we got a lot of stuff going on already with the freaking collapse of the banks over the weekend, and Richard Hart tweeting about V3. And man, we're so close. And Hex is just absolutely mooning, which is phenomenal. And so, yeah, man, just super stoked to be able to spread the good word of crypto to all our good friends who are in real estate or entrepreneurs alike. So, yeah, man.
Absolutely. Lots of cool things to cover today. Let's start with the most recent Richard Hart updates. These are great. Let me go ahead and come over here, share my screen. All right. Cool, we're in. All right, so Richard gave us some more updates today, which was really exciting. The EBS volumes are warming up. Blockchain Explorer is 95% done syncing, though it's been sitting at 95% for a good long while. And Pulsex is deployed. AMM ratio repair hasn't been run yet. Can't wait till it's public. So, big freaking news. Corey, are you familiar with the EBS volumes, what those are, and how they operate? Lost your volume.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we got you. Yep.
There we go. Yeah, I'm not sure on that, man. It's a little bit out of my realm of knowledge. I could follow up with Gamma; he would know. But I do know the Block Explorer is the connection to the like how we have Etherscan for Ethereum, and everything's connected and synced together. And so he's waiting for the Block Explorer to be synced so we can have basically visibility of the blockchain at any given time, what's going on as far as what blocks are on the transactions, the speeds, everything. But the other part, yeah, I'm not 100% sure. We should, but I'll find out for us.
Okay,
Sure.
yeah, get that information. That'd be interesting. Sounds like they're working on the AMM bot, so we're
Yep.
closing in, which is cool. And this part underneath here was really interesting. To be clear, I'm talking about testnet V3, the final testnet before mainnet. I know there's been some speculation that would we have, additional test nets? How long would we be waiting? So according to Richard Hart himself, this is the last test net before we go live. So knock on wood, as long as this one goes well, there's no big issues. This could, we could be seeing mainnet relatively soon, later this year, which is really exciting.
They decided. Why don't you explain for our new viewers what an AMM bot is?
Yeah, let's do that. So with Pulsechain launching, they're essentially going, and if I'm gonna do my best to keep this super simple, so don't
don't go too hard.
I'm not gonna. So the AMM bot is required to go and balance all of the ratios in Pulsex. And specifically, when they're launching Pulsechain is a full system state copy of Ethereum. That means all of the projects and protocols that are built on Ethereum will copy over to Pulsechain, as well as any ERC20 tokens that exist on Ethereum. They'll be copied over as well. And one of the tricky things that Richard and his team have been working on is they're diluting the Ethereum token balance. It'll be, I believe it's 1.2 million Pulsex every ETH, right, Corey?
That's correct. Yep.
So with that being said, they've got to go and balance and set the ratios to be correct over in Pulsechain in relation to how those operate on Ethereum. And the AMM bot is what they've built to go do a few different things. The first thing is it's going to go to every, well, it sounds like every, there might be a few outliers, but just about every decentralized exchange on Ethereum. It's going to go suck out all of the liquidity, which means all of the tokens and their pairings that are in these other decentralized exchanges. So simply put, when you go and you trade something on Uniswap or CowSwap or any of these other dexes and swaps, you go and you have to have a pool in order to trade back and forth. And so one of the coolest things about PulseX is since the AMM bot is gonna suck all that liquidity out and dump it all into PulseX, it will be the most liquid exchange probably in all of crypto, which means that you'll have the least amount of slippage when you go and swap back and forth, and you'll get the best values theoretically for your swapping. And so there's a lot of things that the AMM bot needs to do in the background when Pulsechain launches to be able to balance all those ratios, put all the liquidity in PulseX, have the pools available so that we can go and do the trading and things that we may want to do there upon launch. So that'll be a lot of fun. It is a lot of work. In fact, I'm really interested to see how the AMM bot works in the pools, specifically some of the pools that aren't Richard Hart centric. How do some of the other ERC pools copy over? How deep are they? What do the ratios look like? Because there could be some really unique opportunities. Corey's talked about this more specifically. There could be some really unique opportunities there if some of those pairs are very liquid to be able to go and scoop up Pulsechain and swap over, or PulseX or Hex or whatever you wanted to swap into, but get some incredible deals when swapping into that. And Corey, this has been something that you've been talking about more. So why don't you, I think it'd be really useful for the audience to be able to have you speculate about how that could work and why it may be important.
Absolutely. So as we know that we're all getting our copies, Richard's forking Ethereum, we're all getting copies of every ERC20 that exists on Ethereum. Like you said, so maybe except for some outliers, it's possible that he might not fork Wise token, which was a copy of Hex that failed miserably. And RH has said there'll be a couple of those that he won't fork over. But for the most part, 99% of all ERC20 is going to get forked over, and he's forking everything over in, like you had mentioned earlier, in the decentralized pools. One of the biggest pools that we know that he's going to be putting his focus on, or DEX, if you will, with pools, is going to be Uniswap. Uniswap version 2 will be the main focus. I'm not sure if pools will be coming out of V3. We're all speculating whether he's in a fork V3. That's me ready. I know the licensing's coming up here soon. I think in April, if I'm not mistaken. He has the capability of taking that code. It comes open source. So we'll see. It'd be interesting to know. But we do know for sure V2 will be copied over. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to do a little bit of homework. And I did this earlier last year. And so, I mean, this is a while ago. And I went on to V2, and knowing that we're going to be forking over the pairs of ERC20 and Ethereum pairs is what you're going to be looking for. And you're going to want deep liquidity pools of those pairs. That way, if we have some people in there with the same idea on the same token, that it won't affect us too much if they're very deep. You don't want thin liquidity because meaning that if you're up against 10 of your buddies swapping out of that coin, you could be left with a very poor ratio. So you want to make sure that you have a deep liquidity pool when the fork happens, so that way you can extract as much value as you possibly can. You don't have to be first one to the door, right? It's kind of like a bank run almost, where everyone's gonna be trying to get out their value all at the same time. And so the deeper the pool, the better. And so you can go on the Uniswap right now. You can go on to the V2 and you could type in ETH to see all the pools. And I remember last year, some of the deepest pools, and I don't know if they still are now. I'm gonna do my homework either this weekend or next. Was like Ape. Ape was a deep pool. Chainlink was a deep pool. Shiba Inu was a deep pool. I think Shiba Inu is one of the deepest pools that was on the decks. Let me think of another one. And so these, what was the other one I was looking at? I can't remember. There was one. I think it was Ape. It was Ape. Ape was one of the second or third deepest pool. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that coin. It was a coin that came out around the NFT, Board
Like
Ape
a Board
Yacht
Ape
Club.
Yacht
That's
Club.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. The Board Ape Yacht Club, and they came out around that. And so there's some of them on there that will be deep, and I will do some homework and find out which ones are. And you ideally want to play in these pools to spread your risk out, so that way you're not playing with the crowd. Everyone's going to be doing the hex trade. Like hex is in the ERC20, so obviously it's going to be forked over, and everyone's going to be trying to use that to go into Pulsechain and PulseX, which I'm very happy about that because I'm going to be going the other way. I'm going to be going into hex. Ideally, hopefully, with these other ERC20s that I'll be doing, maybe I'll be swapping my P link into P hex at a very good ratio because everyone's gonna be dumping hex, and I will also be trying to get me some pulse. Although I'll try to get pulse right out of the gate, so hopefully the price is still what of a good, still good ratio. But I anticipate very quickly pulse to really ramp up in price or ratio. It's not really a price; it's a ratio pre-bridge. And then, so we'll see what happens. But ideally, you want to look for ERC20s with deep liquidity pools, ETH pairs on V2, and that would be a pretty safe bet, I think, because as long as you're not swimming with everybody else, you should get yourself a pretty good deal.
Well, I think this is a really important talking point. There's not a lot of people talking about it right now. Everybody's saying to buy Hex and get your free copy, and then you could go and trade your Hex. And I think your bank run analogy is so spot on, especially with the bank runs that we've seen more recently. Where literally, you guys have to understand that if you don't already, if you go to the bank, right, and there's a bank run, and the bank has, there's people in line, they want to get $1 million out across 10 different people, and the bank only holds 100 grand. Well, the way that it works in crypto is you can continually swap. The ratio will allow you to swap, but you're going to get a worse and worse and worse deal as the ratio moves against you. And so with the $100,000, if you're near the back of the line and you want to come and pull out, 10 grand, and the people before you have pulled out the majority of the liquidity, you might get 50 cents on the dollar, 20 cents, 10 cents on the dollar. And a lot of these people, in my opinion, are going to get that type of deal when they're swapping Hex, their Hex copy over on Pulsechain for Pulsechain or PulseX or whatever it may be. And so if you can find deep liquidity pools, and this is where you've got to, if you want to play this, you're playing a little bit of a game, because you've got to go buy the token before Pulsechain launches, before the block that they copy. So you've got to buy it beforehand. You've got to get your copy. If it's not a token you're interested in holding long-term over on Ethereum, then as soon as you verify you've got your copy, you want to dump it on the ETH side as fast as possible, theoretically, to maintain your value there. And then over on Pulsechain, you've got to make your swap. You got to swap it for Pulsechain or PulseX or whatever it is that you want. You want to do that theoretically as fast as humanly possible, because the bank run is going to be happening on all assets. In my opinion, everything's going to be going over.
Let's speculate right there. Just for a second, let's speculate right there. We want to make sure, for one, that, this is my opinion, not financial advice. We're just some dudes on the internet. Do your own research. But I don't want to use any of the RH ecosystem tokens for this swap, including Hedron, Icosa, Pulse Bitcoin, any of the Maxi tokens, the perpetuals, because for one, all these tokens have very thin liquidity over on Uniswap. They all play the same game that Hex plays, and Hex likes to be thin too. That's why RH likes it, because he likes to see massive price action, which we've seen the last few days. It's been amazing. But all these RH ecosystem tokens play the same game. So and remember, most hexagons are holding one form of these or another in their wallet. So ideally, I would stay away from all those. Two, the second thing to touch on what you had talked about, and I just know this because I get to be in with the Pulsechain dev, right? I'm not the cute girl with the Pulsechain dev rumors, but I do know a Pulsechain dev. He's my private mentor. It's really cool. We had talked about this, and even though he hasn't told me directly, he's not going to tell me directly because he's under this strict oath with RH. But here's the thing: we're going to be spinning up node validators for Pulsechain testnet. And we're going to be, beating on the system, beating on the chain, making sure that everything works correctly. All the testnet validators are going to make sure that they're operational and they're humming along. And we got to, run it and see what happens and see if we can break it. Well, there's going to be a time where all of us, or not all of us, but a good portion, he's going to want a good portion of us to switch over the RPC setting and switch over all the settings that it's going to do in the clients for mainnet. He's going to need a good portion, of validators to make this thing decentralized and to launch mainnet. And there could be a window that he gives us, and he might not come out and say, "Hey guys, I'm launching mainnet on such and such date at this time," but he might come out and be like, "Hey guys, here's some settings that you're going to want to enter into your clients. Here's a new RPC setting. I'm not going live now, but I want you guys to go ahead and build out your clients, getting ready to launch, and be ready for when I say go." Because he's going to need some node validators on day one. And so at that time, all of us will be scrambling to update the clients and rebuild them out, get the binaries downloaded. He'll probably have a launch pad, kind of like how Ethereum does. That will be updated with the new binaries and the new code and everything that we can go in there and build out. And when that happens, I would say we're very close. We're within days, if maybe a week, of launch, and that's why he's giving us that info. And that would be my signal, my time. And I could be wrong. Maybe this doesn't happen. This is a speculation again. But ideally, this is probably how it's going to play out. That's your time and signal to go and purchase whatever ERC20 token that you're planning on making this swap with. And like you said earlier, you purchase the token, maybe wait a week, you confirm that the fork happened. As soon as that fork happens, you go over back onto the Ethereum side and sell off the RC20 that you had purchased, unless you have some kind of long-term vision with that token. You want to hold it for one reason or other. But for me, I'm using it strictly for the swap. I'll get my liquidity back so I can bridge in now my new USDC that I sold into, right, over the bridge. Plus now I got my P side of whatever. So we'll just call it P Link or P Sheep for now until I do some more research. And then now you got both of these to purchase your Pulsechain, PulseX, or PHEX, whatever have you. And you just grabbed yourself some free liquidity, if you will. And so that's the game I'll be playing. I'll do some more research and homework on the pools. Maybe, like I said, this weekend or next. I did it last year, but so much time has passed. These pools have changed. I need to do some more homework.
And until we get real close, the liquidity, like you're saying, the liquidity can change pretty drastically. And so it'll be interesting to see with, some of a lot of people are speculating we're heading into the bull market. We're about a year from the next Bitcoin halving. That being said, we've got a year till then. And so I don't want to get too bullish too quick and shoot myself in the foot.
Although Bitcoin, didn't it hit 26,000 already? Did it 26K? Yeah, today, this morning.
I think it may have. I didn't.
Which is crazy.
I was more paying attention to Hex than Bitcoin.
I know. Right. Hex hitting 9 cents is a lot more exciting than Bitcoin hitting 26,000.
Right. So once again, I want to nail down. So with the analogy of the bank run with Hex is going to the bank and everybody knowing there's a bank run and everyone going to the bank and trying to cash out all at once. You're going to most likely get slaughtered in that scenario. However, holding another ERC20 with deep liquidity where the communities aren't talking about Pulsechain, maybe most of them aren't aware of it. That's like you being the first in line at the bank run or close to
Or
it.
the only one. You're like
Or
the
the
only
only
one in the
one.
bank. You're like, hey, I can go ahead and grab as much money as I want.
Right.
Okay.
And you're in good shape. So something to keep in mind. We're all real big advocates. We're going to be holding plenty for our copies and all that type of stuff. But there's a way to play the game. And in crypto, make no mistake about it, it's player versus player. And a lot of these guys will say things to try to pump their own bags and play these games. And you want to do your homework to be best prepared as you can to benefit yourself and those that you know, like, and trust. So
Yeah, and
be
I'm gonna play
careful
the
out there.
trader game with assets that I don't care about, right? Like I don't give a crap about P-Link or P-Ape, right? But I do care about my hex. And so I don't want to get wrecked doing a bank run with my hex.
No, and a lot, and I mean, and to that point, I think that we would all agree that the value of PHEX, I mean, we could be multiple dollars in 2025. Some people are
Absolutely.
speculating over $10. Now, I don't know if we get that high, but like it's within the realm of possibility. And gosh, if you're trading that 50 cents on the dollar, oh my gosh, that could hurt. So
That
be
could
careful.
hurt. Yeah, when you look back and oh my god, the wreck. You get so wrecked by
Yes.
playing that game. So just be careful, guys. Even be careful with the ERC20 swapping. Like you want to go on a Uniswap, pick out like the top 10 deepest liquidity pools, and then pick one that most people don't talk about. Like I'm not going to be using Shiba Inu. I won't be using that one. Because a lot of people do talk about that one. And Shiba Inu, there is rumor that they're coming over to Pulsechain. We'll see if that actually happens. It'd be interesting to see. But I feel like a lot of Hexicans will be using that one too. So I'm going to pick one that, a lot of people aren't talking about. And maybe I'll name off some here on the show. But the ones I name off here on the show will probably not be the ones I'm playing.
Right, exactly. Let's I thought this was a Richard Hart at it again. He let me share this. So we had Hibbit Hex this morning.
Oh yeah.
She provides a lot of great information. She does a great job contributing to the hype machine. That being said, a lot of her information is often not correct. And sure enough, here we have an example of that. So she says V3 is dropping any minute now. And Richard comes in and says, chill. If it was any minute, I'd say any minute. So once again, Hibbit does an excellent job building the hype train. You just want to be careful about the information and that you're utilizing and how you're acting on said information. So we're close, but we're not any minute close. So that's interesting to see.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's look at the hex pump today. Holy cow, we're almost to 9. We're almost to 9 cents.
So I got asked a question in our group. It's like, hey, do we still DCA and hex? And everyone's you got to make your financial decisions yourself. I do believe hex could go to 18 cents personally. This is me personally, and this is not financial advice again. When the V3 announcement happens, because I see a lot of liquidity moving up into that range. And so that's where the anticipation, I think, is going to be, is the 18-cent range. So you could continue to DCA in these levels. I'm not personally myself, but what are your thoughts on that, Dane, about DCAing in these levels?
I mean, so we're working from the basis that we built really strong positions very near the bottom of the dip from, the roughly 2 cent to 3 cent range. So we're sitting really well with our bags and hex, and we feel comfortable about that. That being said, I mean, I feel like, man, it really well, and this is the hard thing. It really depends on what you want to do with your hex when Pulsechain comes out, how high you think hex can go. And in fact, Corey and I were talking about this the other day, and I think we vary a little bit on our opinions here. This will be a good topic to chat about. So I'm of the mindset that if you want to play a short-term game, I think just about any buys under 10 cents are pretty reasonable because I think just about, and I could be wrong, once again, this isn't financial advice, but I think it's pretty reasonable to say that at these levels today, you're probably going to get a double from here,
Yeah, I
running
can go with
running
that.
into Pulsechain.
Yep, I can go
Yeah.
with that. And the liquidity is kind of proven that on Uniswap.
Right, right. So liquidity is moving up to the 20 cent range, the 19-20 cent range. That means that some of these guys providing liquidity think that it's going to head there. They're trying to polarize the price that way.
Or a
And so,
benevolent actor could also be polarizing the price that way. And
yeah,
he probably knows where it's going more than any of us.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really fair train of thought. And so, with that being said, I think anything under 10 cents is a double. And then, depending upon how you want to play your hand, I you've got to make some decisions. The tricky thing that I've been monitoring, so I've got the monthly, I've got the last 30 days here pulled up on the hex chart. Let's change it to candles. It'll be a little easier to read. So here's the monthly, or not the monthly. This is the last 30 days. And I've been hopeful that we saw a decent pullback, that there could be some better buying opportunities, but there really hasn't been any that strong of pullbacks. I mean, the strongest one was
Yeah,
from here at about 7.5 cents,
five and a half.
down to 5.5 cents, roughly
Yeah.
speaking. I mean, that's not for crypto, that's not that strong of a pullback. And the fact of the matter is we just don't know. I mean, you and I have talked offline about the market kind of, or hex price, seeing a nice pullback after V3. But where does that leave us? Does hex pump to 12 cents, 15 cents, maybe even 20 cents? I don't know. But then does it pull back? How far does it pull back? Does it pull back 50%? I mean, from what we've seen ever since this bottom here, I mean, we haven't, you can see it's almost straight up. It's almost straight up. There hasn't been a really strong buying opportunity in here. I think that it's fair to say that there may be a decent one after V3 and we're there for a few months. But man, do you want to bet on that? And that's the hard thing. Because if you were somebody in this range, call it 4 cents, and you're like, oh, I want to wait till it pulls back in the 3 cent range, well, you got
Oh,
left
correct.
behind. And if you were here in the 5 cent range and you were waiting for it to pull in the 4 cent, you were left
Correct.
behind. Same with the 6, the 7. Now, once again, that doesn't mean that it couldn't pull back down into those ranges. But I think anywhere, if I wasn't satisfied with my hex position and I had dry powder, I think I'd feel somewhat comfortable about buying, just dollar cost averaging into these ranges, with the understanding that it definitely could pull back. You could be underwater a little bit in the short term, and especially if you're somebody that's satisfied with a copy, you're going to be staking to 2025. I feel pretty comfortable buying here.
Okay, I like it. I like it. There's another. We've been talking about the narrative a lot, about the P hex and E hex and the parity and all the narrative the maxis are kind of talking about. I was watching RG3 last night with Johnny, and I watched that, and Johnny did make one really good argument with this, and it made sense. Now, it's just all speculation, guys. And if this happens, I'd be very shocked if this happens, because this is pretty benevolent of this actor. But if that benevolent actor decided to take 10 billion EHEX and 10 billion PHEX and put it in pools, you could put up in the pool on the Pulsechain side and the Ethereum side, and he's got enough to do on both. Like,
Right.
where no one in the community, including Godwell, maybe Godwell, might be able to fluctuate this price with his. He's staked for the most part. Godwell's like a lot of his stuff is staked. Like, it would be, no one in the community has the economic energy to move a pool like that. Where selling into that or buying into that is not going to move the price against each other at all. And so That is very high speculation. I don't know if I believe something like that will happen, but if it did happen, it does make sense where the pool is so deep that no one in the community is unable to affect it or move it. And they would be immediately price parity right at the fork or whenever the pool was created, right? Someone's got to set a pool. And most likely, it's going to be the OA. There will be a pool, until the community, there'll be community members that get there and create their pools too. But that's not going to happen until after the bridge comes in and everything, all the activity happens. In fact, a lot of communities members will probably hold back on creating pools even after the bridge comes in because the volatility will be so so crazy in the beginning. It's gonna be absolutely insane. Um, but I don't know. It was interesting, and so he did have a good argument with that because I know we've been speaking against the narrative that buy and sell pressure matter more than anything. It does, in my opinion. But man, I don't know if there was a 10 billion pool of each side of both assets. It'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
It would be, and I think also the timing of it, because we've seen time and time again. This is my opinion. I could be wrong, but in order to get the best price charts in crypto history, you have to have low freaking lows and you have to have high freaking highs. And I think the whole outrage marketing, like you have to think about. So what is who comprises the Hex community, especially the early adopters? Well, it's people that are more in the know with crypto. You couldn't go buy Hex on exchanges. You had to be a little bit more advanced. A lot of these people are developers. They're people that, are more technologically savvy. Now, not everybody, but many of them. And what repels a lot of those people? Well, and I'm making a huge blanket assumption here, but I think it's a reasonable thought process. Well, if you're Richard Hart and you wanna create division in the community and you want to potentially wash out some of the OGs and you want to, create this type of scenario, well, then you go outrage market. You wear the hideous expensive clothes, you buy the expensive cars, you act like you're the biggest piece of shit womanizer in the world, and
He did a
and
good job doing that too.
he's spot on, spot on. He did a great job of
It's
playing that
hilarious.
character. And what are a lot of the technologically savvy dev people going to do with that behavior? They're going to leave. They're going to leave. And you're going to see a massive dip, which we saw in Hex, over a 95% dip from all-time high. And I
Thank
don't want
God.
to give Richard too much credit. Like, I like Richard, we both do. Richard is, in our opinion, the best person in crypto. Richard is playing chess and not checkers, and I think it's a pretty fair opinion to hold that he did things like that with the understanding that he probably washed out a lot of the community members. And so if that is part of the strategy, when do you go and provide this liquidity? If you do it, right? If you're the OA and you want to lock Hex on Pulsechain and Hex on Ethereum, you want to lock them together so they move together. Well, when do you do that? I think there's something to be said about washing out paper hands after Pulsechain launch.
Sure. I love that ideology there.
And
Yes.
so I think, and I could, once again, we're just a couple guys on the internet. We don't know what's going to happen. I would be a little bit surprised to see right out of the gate the liquidity in lockstep and the two hexes being in parity. I
Yeah,
think
because
that
then he's
would,
allowing the paper hands on Ethereum side to exit through him.
right,
And I don't like that idea either. But another good point that Johnny made last night. And I'm going to talk to him and see if we can get him on our show. I would love to just have this discussion with him. It would be fun for all of us to have this discussion. But he was pointing out, like, well, because a lot of people point out, well, it didn't happen on ETH POW. It didn't happen on ETH Fair. Well, it's
right.
because it was never part of the plan. EPOW or Fair was never in Richard Hart's interest, and Richard Hart knew if he would deviate from the plan and provide liquidity over there, then people would dump it because they don't respect the chain. The chain's not adopted. Basically, it's not. It's an unadopted chain. It's unproven. It's not his chain. So why is he going to go over there and protect the assets over on that chain. And so that was a good point. Because Ethereum is going to continue to be used. It's the most adopted chain that we know of right now. Our whole Pulsechain can be a contender, but even if it's a contender, Ethereum's still going to thrive. Ethereum ain't going anywhere. This is just, unless the U.S. even if the U.S. were to crack down and call it security. Well, okay, well then I'm sure we'll just see a lot of those node validators migrate out of the United States and start being more worldwide and more decentralized, which I wish they would do that. But hey, Ethereum can do whatever they want. We got Pulsechain.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to see how this is all going to play out. But Johnny did make some good points on yesterday's show. And so I would love to have him on. I'm going to reach out to him, see if we can get him on. And it'd be fun just to have this conversation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So a lot of things to speculate here in the Richard.
That's why I'm not using Hex for my freaking swapping around though and pre-bridge. It's just that's just a bad play. People are still talking about that. I saw another influencer yesterday. I tuned in, and I won't mention his name because I don't want to put people under the bus. But I tuned in for a minute, and he was shilling that up and down. I'm like, oh, bro, like why?
What the Hex copy?
Yes, to buy Hex now to get Pulse. This is your only way to get Pulse. Yeah. Like this is like the only way to get Pulse. And like, no, it's not. Just stop. I get it. You want to pump your Hex bag right now. That's great. We all do. But man, do it with the right integrity, right? And speak the truth about what's going to happen. And let's look at both sides of the coin, even though the bad side might not play out, but we need to look at it.
Right.
We need to at least look at it.
And it's a tricky balance because frankly, like those types of people in our community, they pump everyone's freaking bag. But you guys that are tuning in here, we want to try to help you be better operators in the crypto space to be able to differentiate between when somebody's just saying something to pump their bags and when they're telling you what they actually think and feel. You would be shocked. I'm telling you guys, and we don't know everybody in the community, but we know many people, and you would be shocked what some of these guys would tell you in person versus what they say on stream or in public. And so
we've already witnessed that.
Yes.
It's completely different. And that is because this is PvP, player versus player. And we've witnessed that in person.
Right. So just be wise out there. Just be careful. It's very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I wanted to, so this is a great, I'm glad Bird Dog brings this up. Did you guys catch the little gem from Randy last night? No influencers pumping Hedron Icosa right now. They want the yield to themselves.
Sure. I love that. Yeah. I was watching Randy's show last night, and he made a good point. I think those are, and my brother says it all the time. He's always reminding me, these are the hidden gems in our ecosystem, just because there's not a lot of hype around them right now. People kind of forgot about it. It's in the back of their minds. And, these are sleepers, guys. Remember when the best time to pick up assets is when no one's talking about it. Hedron did a 33x in the middle of a bear market. And that's because everyone forgot about it. No one was talking about it until Icosa was launching. And that's when Hedron pumped again. And people thought it was something that would have use case in our ecosystem. It's because of Icosa. But, Alex had planned Icosa the whole time. He wanted the weak hands to get out. And no one was talking about it. And this is the time when you want to start collecting assets, is when they're on their dips, when people forget it. Everyone's focusing on Hex right now. Everybody's focusing on Hex. And let's not forget about some of these other beautiful assets that are in our ecosystem. And Hedron and Icosa are definitely two of those assets. My brother got lucky. He caught the loco the loco Icosa bottom. It went down to like 49 cents. I think we're at 65. I think we're at 65 cents. And my brother, he's staying at my house at 67 cents right now. Oh yeah, 67 cents. My brother's in my house right now, and he was bragging to me all night last night how he cut the bottom. It was really cool.
And so let's talk about that, Corey. I think that's a really interesting discussion. So all the attention is on Hex. I think that Hex,
and it should be.
Yeah.
It's the shining. It's the star of the show right now, right? The show is starting to go on, and it's out there dancing.
Yeah.
It's in the,
And
it's in
I
the
and I
spotlight.
really like, I mean, we like hex short term, we like it long term. Um, I
I
think there's
love
a
it.
lot to be said though, to be looking at some of these other things if you're building your bags and we're once again we're gonna get a copy of all this stuff over on Pulsechain.
Oh,
Some of this stuff in relation to hex is a way better deal, even with Hedron and Icosa pumping more recently in relation to what hex has done. They're at a discount. Some of the other perpetuals, like if you're a Pulse Bitcoin
yeah.
ASIC token
Let's stop right
person.
there for a split second. I don't know if you guys have been watching the Pulse Bitcoin and ASIC token chart, but I feel like, and that's not financial advice. Once again, I'm just some dude on the internet, but man, what do bottoms look like? Well, bottoms look like when an asset gets down to a certain level and it just stays there and runs sideways for a very long time. That's what ASIC token has been doing at the dollar range and Pulse Bitcoin. It has been running sideways there for I think like 2 months now, 3 months. I don't even know. It's been there for a minute. And so to me, that feels like a bottom for that asset. And so if you wanted to play in that asset class, this would be a good time to participate, in my honest opinion. Doesn't mean you have to. If you don't like ASIC token and Pulse Bitcoin and Hex Info and Gunther, I get it. Whatever, make your own decisions. I like it. It's got a fun little meme narrative to it. The whole ecosystem does. The whole narrative, like, let's bring the best performing assets in crypto over to Pulsechain, like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin. Let's bring these, narratives over to Pulsechain, in which that's just fun for me. And memes have utility, guys. That is a utility in itself, is a meme. That's why Shiba Inu did what it did. That's why Doge did what it did. People love memes. And so I like the idea. It's fun for me, but man, I just feel like it's at a bottom right now. And I could be wrong. Who knows? And yeah, it's just fun. And I feel like Hedron's there too. Have you noticed Hedron has been just hovering at the 5 zeros in the 2 range? Just
Hedron
it's
and
just
Icosa have been both kind of hanging out.
camping out, just chilling, because all the spotlights on Hex and these other assets are just chilling at these I feel like bottom levels. And so be careful, guys. I mean, you don't have to like put your whole bag in them. I mean, but I would just allocate, at least think about allocating a little bit to these assets. I understand that Hex is the star of the show, but man, a little bit goes a long ways in crypto. We all know that.
Especially now, because in terms like Red Squirrel says here, if you value Icosa in terms of Hex, not USD, then it's about as cheap as it's ever
cheap
been.
as it's going to ever be. Oh my God, we are so far off that arbitrage point. This is an amazing time.
And we've still got 6 months of Icosa, about 6 months, I think, roughly, where we're on that 400% APY trajectory. And so a lot to be said about that. And once again,
let's not forget, it smacks us right after the Bitcoin halving, roughly around that time, or right before the Bitcoin halving. After Pulsechain's out, we're getting all the hype, the bull run going. It's a perfect time for that seed liquidity, if you will, to kind of come to an end for the rest of the ecosystem to keep pumping. And so, man, I am super excited for those assets.
And if you guys are here now, you're so early. There's going to be, I'm telling you, come 2025, there's going to be a lot of people saying, oh, you guys were part of the Pulsechain copy. You got all your ERC20s copied over. You're able to get the Pulsechain entry at the start, and Pulsex, like, it is going to be.
They're going to be like, how did you get so many EHEX T-shares and PHEX T-shares? Well, I was in before the chain launched. They're going to be like, oh, man, you're an OG. Well, yeah, I guess I am.
Right place, right time. It's going to be, oh, man, it's going to be nuts. How do you guys feel about considering sacrifices as DCAs? I like it. I think that your dollar cost averaging in as part of your strategy. You're considering sacrifices.
Oh yeah. Do it with the assets you really believe in. Do your due diligence. Not all of them are great. Some of them are good, really good. Like obviously, Famous is one of me and Dane's favorite one that we just participated in. So do your due diligence on them. They're the ones that we like. but not all of them are great. I mean, there's 170 projects, guys, coming to Pulsechain, and I would probably go on the limb and say 95% of them are going to be garbage.
Yes, agreed.
And this is the way it goes. And after we launch, we're going to see a lot of garbage. That's when the scammers are going to come out and start building all kinds of rug pulls and everything else. So be very careful, especially after launch. It's going to be a shit show. It's cheap to build on Pulsechain. The gas fees are low. That's why BSC is the scam chain, because it's just like it was easy to build there and it was cheap. We're going to have some of the same issues. Now we do have a better community than BSC. So we're going to have the community like the Pulse Police validate and everything. We're going to be talking about, we got people like Buck in our community. He calls out scams like left and right. I love that he does that, and he makes a point to do it for us. And so we have a lot better community protecting our ecosystem than what the BSC chain does or did. So we have that in our favor. But yeah, DCA into these sacrifices are great. He kind of elaborated, said, rest of my DCAs are Hex and Power City. Power City is one of my favorite ones, Connor. I love Power City. I love what they're doing for the ecosystem, what they're building. They got some good guys over there, right? Like, love Jesse. I love KDP. These are really good people. So yeah, I did SAC for Power City for the full disclosure. My financial advice is just what I did, and I like it.
And you've got to keep in mind. So, and when you're sacrificing, if you're sacrificing, so for instance, I'm really bullish on liquid loans. I think it's going to be a really cool protocol. That being said, the money that I put into liquid loans is a very small amount of the total supply, because there was so much money sacrificed for liquid loans. I think it was like $40 million. However, if you can catch some of these sacrifices that end up being good projects, a lot of people are out of cash. It's the bear market. A lot of the liquidity is gone. And so there just won't be as much money sacrificed. You can own a much larger amount of supply for some of these things that you can sacrifice now. And in fact, this is a good place probably to kind of end off the show. So I want to show you guys this. I think this is a really big deal, and nobody's talking about it. So here's an inside scoop that I've been paying attention to.
I like it. I love inside scoops.
Yes. So one of the things that I'm using as an indicator to be able to decide which projects I want to sacrifice for is I'm looking at the projects they're forking and how they've performed. And one of the things that to be completely honest, that really made me nervous about Liquidity, they don't freaking have a log button on this on Nomics. Let me pull it up over here.
Over on CoinMarketCap.
Yep, CoinMarketCap. Let's pull it up here.
There's GMX. You're watching GMX, huh? I've been watching GMX too.
I like watching GMX.
Yeah, it's a good one.
In fact, we could do a whole show on this. But if we go and we look at the Liquidity price chart, this is one of the worst price charts in crypto. Of a project that's still around. It's one of the worst. You can see they launched and then it pretty much just went down. This is how many protocols look that are scams and rug pulls. And so I get the idea that Jesse and Walrus and these guys have been propagating that it's a really cool protocol, but it makes me nervous looking at the price charts of Liquidity until more recently, and this is cool. So I like this. This is really fascinating. So over the last, you can see, let me go back 3 months.
Now I wonder why that is, Dane.
Right? So you guys have seen, if you've been paying any attention at all with the bank run, people have been fleeing stable coins. They've been going into other assets, or they've been looking for better stable coins.
Right.
And so with that being said, and with some of the market in general pumping, Liquidity and their stablecoin LUSD, in my opinion, has been one of these like beacons of light. It's been pretty remarkable, where you can see in the last 3 months a low of 63 cents. It's at 3.5 cents today. That's, what is that? That's a 5x just about. over the last 3 months, this is a very strong price chart. And I'm really like seeing this. It makes me feel a lot stronger about Power City and Liquid Loans. And the Power City sacrifice is going to be open until Pulsechain launches.
Correct.
And so if you wanted to play the game, since it's going to be open until Pulsechain launches, you could theoretically go into assets that you felt like were very likely to pump heading into Pulsechain, and then you could peel off some of that and sacrifice it for some of these sacrifices and get a better bang for your buck. So
pretty smart degen play there, Dane.
Hey, that's not a degen. That's smart, man.
It's smart. It's smart. I'll give you that. It's definitely, you could play that game a little bit. Connor's got a good point here. Remember, liquidity was raised all VC money also. So yeah, this was a VC project. So obviously VCs were doing nothing but dumping. That's pretty common in the VC raising realm of when these projects launch. So yeah, so then maybe the VCs are out of the project now, and now you have people finding belief into the ecosystem because of just what's happening with stable coins, which is really cool. And so, man, look at that. It's even on a tiny little tear. It lost a little bit. It pumped up. It crashed, and then it stabilized out. Man, it's just
it's strong. This is LUSD. That's the stable coin with liquidity, and I'm a believer. It's looking.
I'm a believer too, man. I'm all about it. I'm all about Liquid Loans. I'm all about Power City. I'm glad I invested in both of them. I can't wait, man.
Oh man, it's looking great. You just can't stop. Hex absolutely pumped.
I know. I woke up and like 9 cents. I'm like, gosh, what? Come on. Can we just go back to like 4 for a day? Like one day.
Get a little better buying opportunity. This is a great point. Coins of Liquid Loans will be distributed within the first 2 years to sacrificers. If I could go back, I'd play my Liquid Loan sacrifice differently. But it is what
I would too, but this is true. It's going to be distributed out where majority of the liquidity will be coming out in year 2. Even Godwell did his sacrifice, and he put it out to year 2.
Did he?
Yeah, he sure did. So a lot of belief in that.
It'll be fascinating to see if that was the better play or if it would have been better just to get your tokens
if
early.
I could redo it again, because I put all my liquidity at the end of year 2 because I have a very long-term horizon mindset anyways, and I don't need to get rich overnight. If I had to I would change it though. I would have maybe created more of a ladder type strategy where I had some liquidity coming out maybe every 6 months in the protocol,
yes,
all the way leading up, so that way I could get in there and start doing some yield generating out of that asset, and then also you kind of front run the majority of liquidity since a lot of it's back.
Well, and with freaking 2 years, like you think about it, if the 4-year cycles continue to play out, dependent when Richard launches. The 2-year unlock could be on the downside of the top. We could be heading
depending on when we launch. Correct. Depending on when we launch.
And at this point, I mean, you figure, so Bitcoin halving is in a year. So even 2 years, I mean, you go back, one of the cycles, the top was a year after the halving. Now, there's a lot of speculation around those lengthening out more and more as we go along, and that appears to be backed by data. So I'm not super worried about the year, but man, like if we take another 6 months to launch, I mean,
we're cutting it close.
Yeah, cutting it close.
But even if we're on the back end of that mountain,
it'll be fine.
We'll be all right. It just sucks because I mean, obviously we're gonna be I'm planning on exiting it out a good portion of my portfolio, if not all of it, in this next bull run because I'm gonna play the cycle game because I feel like that's what smart money does. They play the market cycles. It could go against a lot of the narratives in the community, but it sucks because we weren't able to create all that yield generation the whole time. And I just feel like I kind of shot myself in the foot. I wish I'd have created a ladder where same thing, where you just put a little bit at the end and then you increase the liquidity of the ladder as you come into the front end of the sacrifice when it launches.
Agreed. I messed that one up a little bit.
Yeah, that's how I'd have played it. But we also thought Pulsechain was launching shortly after that, and we're like, oh, this puts us right in the top of the bull run. This is amazing. And I think that might have been even Liquid Loan's attention too, with their plan with this. Nobody anticipated us to not launch until middle or maybe the end of 2023, right? And so, yeah,
Right.
it kind of throws a wrench in things. But hey, yeah, we got a
Is
lot of
what it
other
is.
great stuff coming out along with this too. So,
Yep,
a
it'll
lot
be
of good
good.
assets.
Yep, absolutely. So hey, we appreciate you guys tuning in. The attendance on these shows has been astronomically high. We appreciate all your help
Smash
with
the
the
likes,
growth.
guys. Subscribe if
Likes,
you're not on here. We always
subscribes.
forget to say that. The likes do help the algorithm to push it to other viewers. And Randy had mentioned something last night, Dane, that we got to talk about is when he started doing his mid-journey thumbnails, where the AI generating thumbnails for the show. He says not the show viewers doubled when he was live, but the viewers doubled when it was sitting in, after the show ended.
Oh,
So like
interesting.
on average, he was getting around 1,000 views. And this is for anyone who's doing content. It could be useful. He was getting 1,000 views on his content when he started implementing the mid-journey thumbnails, the AI generated thumbnails. YouTube started promoting him more or pushing his algorithm more. And he literally doubled his views overnight.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, we can do that.
So something for all you influencers out there who are creating content, something to think about. Maybe we start doing it too.
Yep. Well, appreciate you guys being on. We'll be on tomorrow again. We'll be on the rest of the week. My internet should be working flawlessly moving forward, so we should have less of the
We should have
glitchiness.
Stu
We
Man
should be
on
good.
this week. I think he's on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. And it should be a good time. Another couple of guys we'll be having on soon is Crispy Man. I got to lock down a day with him. And then also Identity Block. I'm really excited about getting him on. I'm going to keep bugging him until we get a day locked in because he's just a well full of knowledge, in my opinion. So
absolutely. And if you guys have people that you think should be on, we've had a couple of community members that have set up some of the people that come on the show. That's been really helpful. If there's people you'd like us to interview, send them over. If you have an interesting story to share, we want to hear from you. And so
let's address this really quick before we hop off. This is my homophobic. Original thought was a swap something like a Pulse X for Pulse. Now I'm thinking it's a bad move. Thoughts. So, my opinion, yes, probably a bad move. Unless you do it. You're one of the first ones to get it done. And Dane has talked about this a little bit, where if you could get into some Pulse right out of the gate, and then maybe before the bridge comes in, you swap back into, you might be able to get a nice swap ratio and make some money that way. But in general, if that's what you bought Pulse X for, it could be a bad move. And we'll maybe do a whole show on this. This could be a good show, Dane, to maybe break down some numbers on an Excel sheet, and you're really good at that, to really dive into if we think this will be a good swap, what would make it a good swap, and kind of dissect it a little bit.
Now, the one caveat to this, that this may work out. Now, I'm not holding my breath, but Richard was the one that talked about it from the beginning. Does he come out and provide massive liquidity early on to be able to make it so that the slippage isn't strong and you could get a very
kind of like
good
the E-hex, P-hex theory?
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about that.
Is.
I'm hoping that we get some clues with the AMM bot and how it works with the testnet. Now, Richard doesn't want people playing games, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with version 3 testnet and how mainnet actually plays out. Because I think we'll get some clues with we'll get a lot of clues with V3, but I don't think Richard is going to show his whole hand. And so we'll see. But yeah, right now we're not big advocates for this.
But I will touch on this homophobic. I will touch on this. You swapping your Pulse X into Pulse is saying, it's making a bet saying that your Pulse is going to do better than Pulse X. And so be careful with that ratio you're looking at. So if you're doing even a 3-to-1, you're saying Pulse is going to pump 3-to-1 harder than Pulse X in the long run. I think Pulse X, man, is going to tear. I think it's going to absolutely do amazing things. It'll probably do a pretty good dip right out of the gate because of this reason right here. But I think, man, going into the bull run, it's going to tear. The buy and burn feature is amazing. It's never been done before like this. It's going to be like a whale, literally a whale coming in and buying Pulse X every day. Pulse does not have that feature. The only thing it really does is have the narrative of it's a layer one blockchain, and layer ones always do better. But we don't know from history of a DEX in a layer one launching at the same time. And we also don't know of any DEX having tokenomics the way Pulse X is. So any comparisons to that, to me, is out the window. And I think Pulse X is an amazing protocol, and don't discount it, and be careful what you swap into. Yeah.
And in fact, I think I saw a tweet the other day. I think it was a K for K one, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's somebody else. But I believe that Uniswap saw the largest volume of trading it ever saw the other day, and it was like double or triple the largest day in volume ever on Uniswap. And I've got to go and find it. I'm looking here. I don't
imagine if Pulsechain becomes the second biggest blockchain in crypto.
Oh, here it is. Let me show this. This was cool. So props to K4K for putting this out. So here it is. Let me show.
I sacrificed it all, homophobic, from Pulse X.
Oh, we went. Yeah, we went for it. There was no dry powder.
I wish I had more liquidity. I got more liquidity as the year went on. I'm like, man, I wish I could just throw that.
Right. Okay, let me swap us over. Hold on, we can close this. Okay. Let me find. Be patient with me, guys. I am swapping over. There we are. Okay. All right, share screen. Entire screen. Here we go. Okay. So shout out to K4K. If you're not following K4K, you're missing out on a ton of alpha.
Smart dude.
Very smart. Pulsex with his volume in the future would mean a multi-million-dollar market buying spree. Uni just had a near $12 billion volume day for just one day. Pulsex buys $600,000 of Pulsex per $1 billion of volume. 600,000 times 12 equals a $7.2 million of market buying.
That's just ridiculous. Now,
even for example, price impact potential in action, if this amount of buy pressure were pointed at the current Hex USDC pool on 1 inch, it would nearly double the price from almost 7 cents to a little bit over 11 cents. This is if no one bought any. That's just the buy and burn function. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's massive. Even if we get a fraction of that, it's going to be explosive. So, yeah, don't discount PulseX. It's going to be an amazing asset. I think all three assets that RH made is going to be phenomenal and do well on Pulsechain. So,
absolutely. So cool, guys. We will catch you tomorrow.